The first body hit the floor before the alarm even started. Its blood spread slowly across the polished white marble, flowing between golden patterns that had not been stained in over 300 years. No one noticed, not yet, because 40 floors above, in the most secure academy on the planet, a retired human teacher was explaining why civilizations collapse. And within the next hour, half the galaxy would remember why humanity was feared. Empires don't die from enemies. Professor Adrian Kane placed a piece of chalk against the dark learning slate. They die because they become arrogant. The chalk scratched softly across the board. A simple sound, a peaceful sound, the kind of sound Adrian had spent 8 years surrounding himself with. Books, students, history lessons, anything except war. Across the room, Princess Aelira groaned dramatically. The 16-year-old alien heir slumped deeper into her chair. Her silver-blue skin reflected the afternoon sunlight pouring through the massive crystal windows behind her. You always make everything sound depressing. Adrian smiled slightly. History is depressing. It doesn't have to be. It usually is. Aelira threw a small data stylus toward him. Adrian caught it without looking. The princess narrowed her eyes. See, you did it again. What? That weird human thing. Adrian placed the stylus on the desk. I have no idea what you're talking about. You caught it without looking. Lucky guess. You're lying. Adrian shrugged. The princess pointed accusingly. Normal teachers don't move like that. Normal students don't throw things at their teachers. Fair. The room fell quiet. Outside the giant windows, thousands of flying transports moved between glittering towers. The capital city stretched across the horizon like a sea of glass and light. Peaceful, beautiful, safe. At least that's what everyone believed. Aelira stared out the window. Can I ask something? You just did. She rolled her eyes. You know what I mean. Adrian nodded. Go ahead. The princess hesitated. Why did you leave the military? The smile disappeared from Adrian's face. For several seconds he didn't answer. Most people knew he had served. Very few knew where. Almost nobody knew what he had done. And he preferred it that way. Finally he spoke. I got tired. Aelira laughed. That's not the real answer. No, it isn't. The princess leaned forward. My father says humans became peaceful because they learned from war. Adrian looked down at the chalk in his hand. Your father is wise. Did you learn? The question hit harder than she intended. For a moment Adrian saw old memories. Burning ships, collapsed cities, endless battlefields beneath alien skies. Friends who never came home. Enemies who wished they hadn't. His grip tightened around the chalk. Every human learns eventually. Before Aelira could ask another question, the universe exploded. A violent shockwave slammed into the academy. The windows shattered inward. Millions of crystal fragments erupted through the room. The blast wave arrived a fraction of a second later. Adrian moved before his brain consciously understood what was happening. His body reacted. Instinct, training, muscle memory, the kind that never truly disappears. He launched himself across the classroom. Aelira barely had time to gasp before Adrian tackled her behind a reinforced teaching platform. The air became a storm of razor-sharp crystal. Glass shredded furniture. Tables exploded. Dust filled the room. The building shook violently. Aelira screamed. Adrian covered her with his body. A heavy shard struck his back. Another sliced his arm. Pain flared. Ignored. Stay down. The words came out sharper than intended. The princess froze. She had never heard that voice before. It wasn't the voice of a teacher. It was the voice of someone used to giving orders during life or death situations. The explosions continued. One, then another, then another. Far too coordinated. Far too precise. Adrian immediately understood. This wasn't terrorism. This wasn't random violence. Someone had planned this. Someone had come for a specific target. And there was only one target inside this academy worth risking such an operation. Aelira. The hallway outside erupted with gunfire. Short controlled bursts. Professional. Disciplined. Military. Adrian's expression darkened. The classroom door exploded inward. 5 armored figures entered. Black combat armor. Full tactical helmets. Military-grade weapons. Not amateurs. Not pirates. Mercenaries. The lead attacker scanned the room. His visor immediately locked onto the princess. Target located. The word sent a chill through the room. Alira's face went pale. The mercenaries raised their rifles. Adrian stood, slowly, deliberately, placing himself directly between them and the princess. The lead mercenary laughed. Move aside, teacher. Adrian didn't move. The mercenary sighed. Wrong answer. The rifle stock slammed into Adrian's face. Blood exploded across the marble floor. Alira screamed. Any normal teacher would have collapsed. Adrian didn't. The attackers hesitated. Just for a second. A dangerous second. The human remained standing. Blood ran down his cheek. Yet his eyes never left theirs. The lead mercenary frowned. Something about the teacher suddenly felt wrong. Very wrong. Then another attacker stepped forward. This time the rifle butt struck Adrian's ribs. A crack echoed through the room. The human staggered. Still standing. The mercenaries exchanged glances. Why won't he stay down? Alira looked terrified. Not because of the attackers. Because she had never seen Adrian like this. The calm teacher was gone. Something older was looking through his eyes now. Something dangerous. The lead mercenary finally lost patience. Enough. His armored fist smashed into Adrian's jaw. The human crashed onto the floor. Dazed. Bleeding. Motionless. This time he stayed down. The mercenaries moved past him. Straight toward the princess. Alira fought. Kicked. Scratched. Screamed. It didn't matter. One attacker pressed a neural injector against her neck. Her body instantly went limp. The leader lifted her over his shoulder. Package secured. Adrian forced one eye open. His vision blurred. The room spun. But he still saw them carrying her away. No. The word barely escaped his lips. The mercenaries never heard it. Within seconds they disappeared into the smoke. Silence returned, broken only by distant alarms. Adrian remained on the floor. Blood dripped from his face. His ribs screamed with pain. Every breath hurt. For several minutes he didn't move. Then he heard something. A memory. A voice from long ago. A battlefield. A dying friend. If you're still breathing, you're still fighting. Adrian closed his eyes. 8 years. 8 years pretending to be someone else. 8 years trying to forget. 8 years trying to become human again. And now, someone had taken his student. Slowly he pushed himself upright. Pain surged through his body. Ignored. He stepped into the destroyed hallway. Bodies lay everywhere. Security personnel. Academy guards. Staff members. Good people. Dead people. Near one corner, a fallen guard rested against the wall. His sidearm remained untouched. Adrian stared at the weapon. For a long moment he didn't move. Because he knew exactly what picking it up meant. It meant the teacher would disappear. And the soldier would return. Finally he bent down. His fingers wrapped around the pistol. Cold steel. Familiar weight. The sensation felt disturbingly natural. Like greeting an old friend he never wanted to see again. The weapon clicked as he checked the magazine. Full. Ready. Adrian looked down the smoke-filled corridor. His expression became emotionless. Cold. Focused. Predatory. Far below the academy, armored mercenaries raced through underground transit tunnels. They believed the mission was finished. They believed the difficult part was over. They believed they had left behind a wounded teacher. None of them realized the truth. Because hidden beneath 8 years of peace, the most dangerous predator in the room had never been the mercenaries. It had been the human. And now, he was awake. The emergency lights painted the underground tunnels in a sickly red glow. Water dripped from rusted pipes overhead. Steam hissed from damaged coolant lines. Every sound echoed through the darkness. The perfect place for an ambush. The perfect place to disappear. And the perfect place to die. Adrian Kane moved silently through the maintenance network beneath the Capitol. His ribs felt like broken glass every time he breathed. Blood still ran from the cut above his eye. His body wanted rest. His body wanted a hospital. His body wanted 8 years of peace. Instead, it got war. The pistol felt heavy in his hand. Familiar. Dangerously familiar. Ahead of him, a maintenance terminal flickered weakly. Adrian crouched beside it, His fingers moved quickly across the controls. Years ago he had learned how to hack battlefield systems during long campaigns. Turns out war teaches many skills. Most of them terrible. The screen flashed. Then a map appeared. Thermal signatures lit up the display. 5 moving targets. 1 unconscious life sign. Aelira. Relief lasted less than a second. She was alive. For now. The group was heading toward the lower transport sector. Toward the old cargo spaceport. Toward a ship. Adrian already knew what that meant. Once they reached orbit, finding her would become nearly impossible. His jaw tightened. That couldn't happen. Not tonight. He memorized the route, then continued moving. Several kilometers ahead, the mercenary team advanced through the tunnels. The leader walked in front. A huge man wearing reinforced assault armor. His name was Drax, and he had survived more battlefields than most armies. Aelira remained unconscious over one shoulder. Status? Drax asked. One of the mercenaries checked his wrist display. Extraction ship arrives in 19 minutes. Good. What about the palace response? Too slow. Drax grinned beneath his helmet. They'll still be arguing jurisdiction when we're halfway across the sector. Several mercenaries laughed. The mission had been almost perfect. Almost. Something still bothered Drax. The teacher. The human. There had been something wrong about him. Something familiar. Something dangerous. But he couldn't place it. Eventually he dismissed the thought. The man was injured, unarmed, probably dead by now. Far behind them, Adrian continued tracking their route. Then he heard voices. 2 mercenaries. Guarding a tunnel junction. Rear security. Smart. Professional. Unfortunately, not smart enough. Adrian killed the flashlight attached to his stolen tactical vest. Darkness swallowed him. He slowed his breathing, reduced every sound, every movement, every step, the way he had done countless times before. The way he promised himself he would never do again. The guards remained unaware. One leaned against a wall. The other scanned the corridor lazily. They believed they were alone. Adrian studied them. Distance, weapons, armor, escape routes. The calculations happened automatically, like a machine restarting after years of inactivity. The result appeared instantly. 7 seconds. That's all it would take. Adrian moved. The darkness moved with him. 1 second the tunnel was empty. The next he was behind the first mercenary. A hand clamped over the man's mouth. The pistol grip smashed into the base of his skull. The mercenary collapsed instantly. Before the second guard could react, Adrian was already moving. The man's eyes widened. Too late. A sharp strike to the throat. Another to the jaw. A final blow behind the ear. The guard dropped beside his partner. Unconscious. Alive. For now. Adrian dragged both bodies into a maintenance alcove. Then searched their equipment. A radio. Extra ammunition. A combat knife. Useful. Very useful. The radio crackled. Davis. Report. Silence. Davis. Adrian pressed the transmit button. But said nothing. Only breathed. Slowly. Quietly. The mercenary on the other end paused. Who is this? Adrian released the button. The radio went silent. A moment later. Boss, something's wrong. Good. Let them worry. Fear was useful. Fear made people careless. Several tunnels ahead, Drax stopped walking. What happened? The radio operator frowned. No response from the rear team. The leader's expression hardened. Dead, maybe. Maybe isn't an answer. The mercenaries exchanged nervous looks. This operation wasn't supposed to face resistance. Certainly not down here. Drax looked toward the darkness behind them. For the first time since the mission began, a feeling of unease settled into his stomach. Adrian continued forward. The tunnels became larger, closer to the transport sector, closer to Aelira, closer to violence. His radio suddenly crackled again. A different voice this time. Nervous, anxious. Boss, security drones found something. What? The rear guards. Silence. Then, they're alive. Drax frowned. Alive? Yeah. The mercenary swallowed. It looks like somebody disabled them. A pause. Professionally. The word hung in the air. Professionally. Not random. Not lucky. Not amateur. Drax stopped walking. Suddenly the image of the bleeding teacher returned to his mind. The way he stood, the way he moved, the way he looked at armed men without fear. A cold feeling spread through his chest. No. One mercenary looked over. What? Drax slowly turned. That human. What about him? The leader's voice became quiet. Find out who he is. 5 minutes later. The answer arrived, and every mercenary in the tunnel went silent. The data specialist stared at his tablet. His face had gone pale. What is it? Drax demanded. The man swallowed. The teacher. Spit it out. He isn't a teacher. Nobody spoke. The specialist looked down at the file again. There are military records. Drax felt his stomach drop. What records? The man hesitated, then finally answered. Human Expeditionary Forces. Several mercenaries exchanged worried glances. The specialist continued. Special Operations Division. The silence became absolute. One mercenary laughed nervously. That doesn't mean anything. The specialist slowly looked up. It does when you read the rest. Drax grabbed the tablet. His eyes scanned the file. Then widened. The color drained from his face. Combat deployments. Black operations. Counterinsurgency campaigns. Planetary liberation actions. Casualty reports. Decorations. Confirmed eliminations. Dozens. Hundreds. Some sections remained classified even now. One line stood out above all others. Adrian Kane callsign. Ghost status. Retired threat assessment. Extreme. Drax stared at the screen. For the first time in years, he felt genuine fear. One of the mercenaries noticed. What does it say? Drax answered quietly. It says we're not being chased by a teacher. The tunnel suddenly felt colder. Far colder. Another mercenary forced a laugh. Come on. Nobody joined him, because nobody found it funny. Not anymore. Elsewhere in the darkness, Adrian stopped. Voices. Close. Very close. 3 targets. He moved toward them. Silent. Patient. Relentless. The predators of Earth had once hunted mammoths. Then rival tribes. Then entire armies. Humanity had spent thousands of years perfecting one skill. Hunting. And tonight, that ancient instinct walked through the tunnels wearing the face of a former teacher. The mercenaries still had Aelira. They still had numbers. They still had weapons. But they no longer controlled the situation. Because somewhere in the darkness behind them, something was hunting them, and every passing minute brought it closer. The old cargo spaceport looked dead. Most of its docking bays had been abandoned decades ago. Rust covered the massive support beams. Broken cargo containers lay scattered across the landing platforms. Flickering lights struggled against the darkness. And somewhere inside that graveyard of steel and concrete, Princess Aelira was waiting to be sold. Drax stood beside the extraction shuttle. The engines were already warming up. Blue exhaust flickered beneath the landing struts. Time was running out. The mission was no longer about profit. It was about survival. How much longer? One mercenary asked. 7 minutes. The answer did little to calm anyone. Every member of the team kept looking into the darkness. Watching. Listening. Waiting. Nobody wanted to admit it. But they were afraid. Not of an army. Not of the authorities. Not of the military. They were afraid of one human. One injured human. One human who was supposed to be dead. A sudden metallic clang echoed somewhere inside the warehouse. Everyone froze. Weapons snapped toward the sound. Silence followed. Then another clang. Closer. Drax tightened his grip on his rifle. Stay focused. No one answered. The darkness seemed alive now. Every shadow looked dangerous. Every sound felt wrong. Then the lights went out. The entire warehouse plunged into darkness. A heartbeat later, gunfire erupted. A mercenary screamed. The muzzle flashes briefly illuminated the room. One of the guards collapsed. A bullet hole burned through his visor. Then darkness returned. Contact. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Mercenaries fired blindly. Rounds tore through crates. Steel walls sparked. Glass shattered. But they were shooting at shadows. Adrian had already moved. Years ago, human military instructors taught a simple lesson. If your enemy has superior numbers, destroy their ability to think. Fear was more powerful than bullets. Fear broke discipline. Fear shattered teamwork. Fear made soldiers kill themselves. And right now, fear owned the warehouse. Adrian moved between stacks of cargo containers. Silent, invisible, patient. Another mercenary appeared ahead, searching, nervous, alone. A mistake. The man never saw Adrian emerge from the darkness. A powerful strike slammed into his throat. The mercenary dropped his weapon. A second blow broke his nose. A third ended the fight completely. Adrian caught the body before it hit the floor. No noise, no warning, just another disappearance. The survivors grew more terrified. Where is he? Nobody had an answer. The team was falling apart. 3 dead, 2 missing, the rest terrified. Drax finally understood the truth. The mission had failed the moment they left that academy alive. Because they hadn't escaped a teacher. They had awakened a hunter. A professional one. And professionals were terrifying. The radio suddenly crackled. A frightened voice. Boss. What? I found something. What? Silence. Then. I found another body. Drax closed his eyes. How many now? 6. The answer felt like a death sentence. Meanwhile, Adrian finally found Aelira. She sat inside a secured cargo module. Bound. Unconscious. Alive. Relief washed through him. Briefly. Then disappeared. Because 4 armed mercenaries still stood between him and the princess. The rescue wasn't over. Not yet. Adrian checked the magazine of his rifle. 9 rounds remaining. Enough. The first mercenary noticed movement. Too late. A single shot dropped him instantly. The second turned. Another shot. Another body. The remaining guards opened fire. Bullets ripped through the cargo bay. Metal screamed. Sparks erupted everywhere. Adrian moved. Fast. Far faster than anyone expected from a wounded man. Years of combat experience guided every step. Every movement. Every decision. The third mercenary barely saw him. A knife flashed. The fight ended immediately. The fourth tried to retreat. He never reached the door. One controlled burst dropped him. Silence returned. Adrian approached the cargo container. His hands quickly removed the restraints. Aelira. No response. Aelira. Slowly her eyes opened. Confusion appeared first. Then relief. Then disbelief. Professor. Adrian smiled faintly. Hello. The princess stared at him. Blood covered his clothes. Bruises covered his face. A rifle hung from one shoulder. And somehow, he looked more dangerous than every mercenary in the building combined. You came. The words were barely a whisper. Adrian nodded. Of course I came. Aelira suddenly laughed. Then cried. Then did both at the same time. Adrian helped her stand. Can you walk? I think so. Good. Because the hardest part was still ahead. Drax blocked the exit. The final survivor. The leader. The man responsible. His rifle pointed directly at Adrian. Adrian pushed Aelira behind him. The 2 men stared at each other across the ruined warehouse. Smoke drifted through the air. Broken lights flickered overhead. Bodies lay everywhere. The evidence of what one human had accomplished. Drax shook his head slowly. You know what's funny? Adrian remained silent. We studied human history. The mercenary laughed bitterly. We always thought the stories were exaggerated. Still no answer. Drax continued. The galaxy says humans are adaptable. Silence. The galaxy says humans are stubborn. Nothing. The galaxy says humans are dangerous. Finally Adrian spoke. Sometimes the galaxy is right. Drax pulled the trigger. Both men fired simultaneously. The warehouse echoed with thunder. Drax staggered, looked down. Blood spread across his armor. His weapon slipped from his hands. The mercenary stared at Adrian. Disbelief filled his eyes. You were just. He coughed blood. A teacher. Adrian lowered his rifle. No. Drax collapsed. The fight was over. Minutes later. Military transports finally arrived. Too late. As usual. Elite soldiers flooded the warehouse. Medical teams followed. Officers secured the area. Everyone stopped when they saw the aftermath. Bodies everywhere. Destroyed equipment. An entire mercenary unit eliminated. And standing at the center of it all. A wounded human teacher. One officer approached cautiously. What happened here? Aelira looked at Adrian. Then at the soldiers. Then back at Adrian. A small smile appeared. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Hours later, the sun rose over the capital city. The nightmare was over. Aelira stood on a palace balcony overlooking the horizon. Adrian stood beside her. For several minutes neither spoke. Finally the princess broke the silence. "You never told me who you really were." Adrian stared toward the sunrise. "I wasn't that person anymore." Aelira smiled softly. "Maybe." The human looked at her. The princess continued, "But I'm glad you were when it mattered." For the first time that night, Adrian smiled. A real smile. Small, tired, human. Below them, the city slowly awakened. Life continued. Peace returned. But across the criminal networks of the galaxy, a different story was already spreading. A warning. A lesson written in blood. A lesson every mercenary would remember. Because they had learned the truth too late. They had kidnapped an alien heir. They had threatened someone under human protection. And in doing so, they had reminded the galaxy why humanity remained one of the most feared species among the stars. The galaxy spent centuries fearing human armies. That night, they remembered why one human was enough.
Thanks for watching. If you love epic sci-fi stories and unforgettable adventures, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to HYF Sci-Fi. Join our growing community, and we'll see you in the next journey beyond the stars.